Okay, so first video on a new channel. No pressure. Feeling no pressure because it's only going to set the tone for every other video to come. So yeah, no pressure. Okay, so what should I talk about in my first video? I guess I should first do my introduction. I'm trying to figure out a new introduction. I think it's going to be this. Hi, I'm Alex Anders, and this is the Bisexual Author Romance Vlog. What do you think? Think that works? I don't know. I'll try it. Maybe I'll try different things. But let me know. Let me know what you think about that. But okay, so what am I going to talk about in this first video? Because I can talk about so many things. I can talk about the fact, like, why I've been missing from YouTube for so long. I can talk about why my readers haven't heard from me in a long time. Like, there's so many things I can talk about. But I think what it's going to be best is if I just talk about my latest book. And in that story, I think you'll get a vibe of what this channel is going to be about. So, what is my latest book? My latest book is a book called Aladdin Jasmine. And it's currently, whenever I release books, there's like a window where I release the books everywhere outside of Amazon in ebook form. Because I released it there for 2 weeks. So that everyone, all of my readers outside of Amazon get a chance to get the book, because then once it gets to Amazon, it's like there for months and months and maybe almost its entire existence. So yeah, this is the opportunity for them. So if you are a person who reads from Barnes & Noble, Google, Apple, Smashwords, Kobo, anything like that, this is the time to get the book before it goes exclusive. So, why did I write a book called Aladdin Jasmine? My journey to writing that book. Well, first of all, I wrote a book 2 years ago called Beauty and Two Beasts. And I wrote it after I watched the Disney movie that had come out, a live-action Disney movie. I had never seen Beauty and the Beast. And I pirated it, actually, like the new Disney version. I pirated it. And I started watching it. And it was the first, Beauty and the Beast I ever saw. And in 15 minutes of watching the pirated version, I was like, no. Because it was, a horrible version. I was like, no, you know what? I'm really enjoying this. I got to stop. I got to go to the theaters. I got to pay to see this. I went and paid to saw it. And as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, this could very easily be a bisexual romance. Like, there's enough characters here that I could turn this into an MF bisexual romance. Maybe I should write this as an MF bisexual romance. You know what? I'm going to write this as an MMF bisexual romance. And I did. And it did very well. So after that, I wrote another fairy tale story called Her Red Hood, and I released it earlier this year. And I think that would have done well, too. I'm really proud of that one. But Amazon just screwed me over on that. I'll talk about that in another video. But, with the Disney movie coming out, remembering Beauty and the Beast, I thought, should I do this? And I went, no, I shouldn't, because I've already released an Aladdin story. That story is called Aladdin and His Prince Charming. And it did well as a short story, a novella. It did well, fairly well for me in English, but it did well in German for me, it did well in French for me, and it did well in audiobook form for me. But I thought, okay, well, I've explored the whole Aladdin thing. And then it's like a month before the movie came out, and Disney movie came out, I thought, what am I, crazy? Of course I need to revisit this. I gotta figure out how to revisit this. What's a story I can do? So at that point, I, rewatched the animated movie, and I don't know if I don't think I saw, I didn't see the movie yet because it hadn't come out, but I did go and read the original story of Aladdin. And I found out the original story is very different than, the Disney story. And the original story is 200 years old, so it's out of, copyright sort of thing. So I knew I could borrow heavily from that. And this was a very hard story to come up with. Okay, so when I come up with books, I can't just come up with something and write it. I need to be inspired. The story, novels take so long to write that I need something that drives me. So I'm always looking for something that will really intrigue me and get me to continue writing. So there's something I have to be able to lock into with protagonists and all that stuff. And, these are romance stories, so it's always some sort of romance thing in my life, right? And I was thinking, first of all, I had a hard time coming up with the actual plot of this story because, the Disney version is Aladdin and Jasmine. The entire thing is structured so that these two will meet and fall in love. And then who would make the third character? I decided to make the third character in the romance the genie. But I had so many issues because foremost, he's 10,000 years old. So talk about an inappropriate relationship. I mean, I was going to make Aladdin 20, and he's 10,000 years old. Like, really, shouldn't you be dating someone a little older than that? So I had to get over that in my own head. Which sounds crazy because I'm making up fantasy stories, but it's true. I personally had to get over that. And the way I was able to get over that and actually come up with a romance aspect of it was, recently, I have been, I was in love. Yes, I was. Now, you need to know this, and this is going to sound odd coming from a romance author, but when I say whenever I refer to love, I'm actually not, was it like, about it, right? I'm actually, for a long time, I had a hard time with love, like me falling in love, me feeling connected to other people. It's just a thing I had. And last year, I decided to really figure out what my deal was. Like, why can't I connect with people and stuff like that? And you guys might know I wrote a book called How to Win the Love Game. And me writing that book was me figuring out love. Like, what is love? Like in the book, I had to sit down, define what love was. Not only romantic love, but sexual love and family love. I had to do all that stuff. And then I had to figure out, like, how and why we fall in love. And I took it from a neurochemical perspective. So now it was so helpful. Like, it didn't sell a great deal and still not selling a great deal, but that has probably changed my life more than anything else I've written or have read. Because now I understand exactly not only how love works, but how friendship works, and just it's all the same thing. So now when I say that I've fallen in love, like for me it's like a very basic criteria. Like chemicals in my brain, did I feel did it reach a certain criteria? And it did. I knew this person. It was a guy. I never fall for guys. Like I always had a little bit of guilt calling myself bisexual, and yet I've never had romantic feelings for guys. But this is a person I'd known for a while, and initially I wasn't interested in him. But I am a sucker for one thing. I'm a sucker for vulnerability because I have a tendency not to be vulnerable. So when I see in other people, I'm just like drawn to it. And this person was very vulnerable. And I'm also a sucker for something else. I am a person who I get chemical releases in my brain when I help someone. It just does something to me. So this person I had met, I mean, physically he was pretty much my type, but he was very vulnerable, and he would ask me for advice, and then would seem like I would give him advice, and it would seem to help him. So just all that stuff just made me just very slowly, and he was so clearly attracted to me, so clearly that like just I couldn't resist, and I just kept on. I became more and more attracted to him, more and more attracted to him. Then he broke up with his girlfriend, and then just started focusing all of his attention on me, and I couldn't help it. I fell in love with him. Things were a little rocky. I'll skip that for a second. So anyway, because of that, like it was kind of like whirlwind, really intense, and then something happened. And after that point, it was kind of like all downhill, a slow decline. And I was writing the book in the slow decline. And he is not young, but he is certainly significantly younger than I am. And we had a sort of this kind of almost mentorship, like professor-student sort of relationship. And that is, and whenever I write a book, like I always want to explore something. And since that was top of mind, I figured out that I could make the story, the genie and Aladdin, be myself and that dude. Where, I took on the role of the genie, the person who was always, helping Aladdin to understand. And then, in my fantasy, in my head, the guy I was in love with became the Aladdin character. That is some insight that you will never get anywhere else from another romance author. Yeah, so that is how I kind of figured out how to how to structure the story. So once I had that kind of tidbit, I was able to then go and create the bisexual romance, the MMF story about it. And you know, if you read the story, I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but if you read it, you know how the genie interacts with Jasmine, and you know how Aladdin interacts with Jasmine. And that was the formation of it. That was exactly it. Me being in love with this dude, being in love with a guy for the first time. Yeah, I can talk more about that later, about that relationship, which has ended later. But that was the inspiration of it. So when you're reading Aladdin's Jasmine, keep that in mind. There was also a challenge with coming up with the actual story, because the Disney version and the original version were also all very different. There's some iffy stuff in that original version, but it's interesting. I took a lot of the iffy stuff from the original version and added it into my version. Of course, my version is a bisexual romance, so it had to be different. And also, there are things that I know that you guys, you know, have. If you're getting that book, odds are you're familiar with the original story. So I know there's some things that you would want, that you want to see in that story. So I had to figure out what those were and how to kind of blend everything together into something that's really kind of fulfilling. And on top of that, I was having a problem. Like I started the book once, and I just couldn't get anywhere. Like I have this thing where when I write, it's not like a writer's block, but it's like a hesitation. Like it's just hard kind of grinding stuff out. And when I know when I have the structure of the story correct, when it's just all flowing. And when I first started this book, it just was not flowing. It just was not at all. And then I figured out, oh, you know what? You know what it is, or you know what would be more interesting than what I'm doing? Because I came up with a plot, but it just wasn't, I just didn't, it was like, bleh. But I thought, okay, well, you know what would be more interesting than what I'm doing? What if I told this story from Jasmine's perspective? And I thought, oh, wait, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. Can I do that? Can I do that? Can I do that? I can't do that. Can I do that? What if I were to do that? What if I were to do that? What would I do? And I started coming up with all these things. And one of the things that I remembered, like I was reading, back when I was going to Japan, I was just reading a bunch of stuff or watching a bunch of videos on Japan and stuff like that. And it turns out that the high society women in Japan, basically, they only saw like 3 or 4 men in their life, because, you know, they were sequestered away, and then at one point they met their husband, or the person would be their husband, and then they met their husband didn't always, like, they didn't sleep in the same bed and stuff, like they didn't sleep in the same room, like it was just a very isolating time. And I thought about that, and I remembered that the original story takes place not in like Agrabah, this like, you know, Middle Eastern country. It takes place in China. The original story takes place in China, which means that the Jasmine character is Chinese. Now, what I found out in researching this book is that there's a large Muslim Chinese community. Like, there was a time when the Muslims decided to start trading with the Chinese, and there was a trade route that created, and then there was a lot of the like Middle Easterners, the Turks, I guess, started moving that way and started living that way. And the story apparently takes place during that time period when there was a lot of Muslims like moving to China. And I didn't know that. So once I knew that, I realized, oh wait, she must be Chinese. Or she could be Chinese. Maybe since she's the daughter of a sultan, maybe she's like a Chinese Muslim mix, Arabic mix, and that's what she became. But once I had that, and she was royalty, I then thought, okay, what would be interesting for Jasmine? You know what would be interesting for Jasmine? If she was living a life, like, you know, in the Disney story, she escapes the palace so she could see the city, sort of thing. And I thought, well, that's something that, you know, I could take and make and put in my story. But what if when she's escaping the palace, and I'm not giving anything away because this is the first chapter of the book, what if when she's escaping the palace, she's just not like going out to check out the city? What if she's escaping the palace because she was living the life of the Japanese high class women, where they just couldn't interact with people. Like, they were sequestered, like they were princesses and they were stuff like that. But the problem was that they had no interaction with other human beings. So maybe she's escaping the palace because she has spent her entire life isolated. And I thought, okay, what could make this worse? Well, it's worse than, what could be worse is that not only can she not talk to men, but because she's a princess, there's a rule that no one can look her in the eye. What must it be like to grow up your entire life and not be looked in the eye? And I thought, okay, that is a story. So the story actually is, it's not like the typical Disney story. What it is a story about Jasmine, who is a princess, but her life is horrible because her entire life, no one's ever made contact with her. And that is why she's escaping the palace, because she desperately wants human connection. And when I had that, I knew I had my story. So, I don't know what you guys thought of, romances before and how they're created and stuff like that, but that's my process. That was my process for this book. First, I had to find out, like, what thing in my life can I make this relatable for? And in this case, it was, dealing with me being in love with this dude and our relationship slowly deteriorating at the time. And how could I, really keep it going in my own head? And also, what interesting aspect of storytelling can I add to it? And that was the Jasmine part. So yeah, that's how I came up with the story. What do you think? Was that interesting? Is that something that you will come back to hear more about, like about other stories in the future? I hope so. So this is what the vlog is going to be about. It's going to be, me telling stories about my previous books. It'll be me talking about the process of writing books, like when I start a new book. Like right now, on Monday, which is tomorrow for me, I will start recording the audiobook for Aladdin's Jasmine. And this is my new setup for audiobooks. I used to, I'm not going to turn the camera, but I had an audio booth. Like I have a closet and in my office, second bedroom turned office. I had a closet and I turned it into my audio booth and I recorded 30-something audiobooks in there, but I just couldn't stand it anymore. It just, oh my God, I was claustrophobic and it was hot and I just couldn't do it anymore. So I thought, well, how can I make this easier on me and still have high quality stuff? I had done a recording, like I had recorded my last audiobook in there, How to Win the Love Game. But I had to punch in some stuff and I just put the microphone on my desk and recorded and I realized, oh wow, the audio sound is pretty similar. So, now I thought, okay, well, can I, try just sitting at my desk and recording, and how can I set up my microphone so that I can do it? So if you look in there, this is the thing for the popper, when you're talking so that it doesn't pop, your P words don't pop. And behind it is my microphone, and it is in a phone box. So I'll just be sitting at my chair and just recording, and that's going to start doing on Monday. So I'll have stories about that, and stories about my life and who I'm meeting and challenges and all that stuff. So if you're interested in stuff like that, then please feel free to subscribe, like the video, and subscribe, and click on the bell, because that's how you can know when any videos coming out. I'll probably be releasing some throughout the week, for the next 2 weeks or so. And yeah, hope you like it, and stay cooler, my bisexual friends and readers. Stay cooler. I'm still working on the ending of this also new, but we'll see what happens. Bye.